Hello and welcome to the first episode of the PvM Hub. In this series, I'll be attempting to teach the very basics of RuneScape 3 PvM. I'll be focusing mainly on using Revolution, and only really interacting with the core mechanics of each boss. These guides will be in no way optimal, but they will be a great jumping off point for people to start getting into higher level RuneScape bossing. With all that out of the way, I think it's only fitting we start off with one of the oldest and most iconic bosses in all of RuneScape, the Giant Mole. With an average loot drop of just over 30k, this is not a boss you'll be camping for the money, but it will be great at teaching you the basic mechanics you will see in almost every other boss in RuneScape. Now this guide is going to be broken up into a couple of different parts, where if I'm any good at being a YouTuber, I will have them timestamped in the description. Those parts will be the recommendations and requirements, setting up your revolution bar, the important facts before going into the fights, and then we'll be watching a full fight itself and going over the mechanics within it. Now jumping into this, we can see for requirements that the Giant Mole has none. You could do this as a level 3 if you wanted to. However, I would recommend being at least level 60 in the combat set of your choice, and level 60 defense. We also would recommend 43 prayer, and about 150k for gear. As you can see, I am wearing full Orichalco, which is tier 60 melee armor. I'm using a tier 60 two-handed weapon, as well as a warrior ring. My inventory is full of desert souls and 2 prayer potion 3s. If we take a look over at the carry wealth tab, we can see that all this gear is around 150k, and if we're lucky, we should be using almost nothing in supplies, and we should never be dying. Next, we're going to set up your revolution bar. If you're unfamiliar with what revolution is, it's a system in RuneScape that will use your abilities from left to right as soon as they come off of cooldown. To take advantage of this system, we will be putting our strongest abilities furthest left, and weaving in a couple threshold abilities which require 50% adrenaline so they can get used most frequently. The setup which I used in this video is by no means the best, but it's one that I found worked through all of my trials. For me, I have Dismember, Cleave, Assault, Sever, Smash, Hurricane, Slaughter, Backhand, and Fury, with the final slot being taken up by the ultimate ability, Berserk. Finally, we can start to take a look at the fight itself. The fight will be broken up into 4 different phases, each consisting of 1 mechanic you will need to worry about. On screen you can see a map of the mole's lair and the corresponding abilities you will want to use to get through them. In the top left, the Giant Mole will spawn in little minions. Use one of the AoE abilities Cleave, Hurricane, or Quake to deal with them easily in one shot. The minions only have 100 HP respectively, so one ability should kill them all no problem. In this clip, you can see that I allow all the minions to stack on top of me before clicking my Hurricane button and dealing with them all very easily. In the top right, you'll see a text box pop over the mole saying that she can be stunned. At this point, you'll want to use either Backhand or Forceful Backhand. Doing this is definitely not required, but it'll do a little bit extra damage and it will save you some food and supplies in the long run. In the bottom right, the mole will attempt to stun you and call down rocks to fall on your head. To avoid this, you can use Anticipation before the stun to negate it completely, or you can use Freedom after you're stunned to break yourself out and then run away from the rocks. Regardless of whether or not you break the stun, rocks will fall, so make sure you are moving in this section so that she can't hit you with more than one at a time. From the clip on screen, you can see I used Anticipation right at the beginning of this phase. I managed to block the stun completely, and then just kite it around, making sure the rocks didn't hit me. We've definitely saved the easiest for last. In the bottom left section, you won't be required to manually use any abilities. The most you will need to do is move a step or 2 away from the AoE that the mole leaves on the floor. If you're lucky, your character will even walk out of it on their own if you have Auto Retaliate on. Even if you don't manage to get out in time, the attack itself is not very scary. Even if you sit in it for the whole duration, it shouldn't max out over 1000 damage. Simply eat up and keep on hitting. For the final part of the fight, the mole will return back to the center chamber where you started the fight initially. She'll use any of the abilities you just saw at random, so make sure you remember what to do and handle them carefully. Don't be afraid to eat at this section, as it is much more important that you stay alive and finish the kill, rather than trying to do it faster. Finally, we're ready for you guys to start your own attempts. For your first kill, you'll be tallying to Falador Lodestone and running southeast until you find the large roots that you can crawl down. Simply hit start, and you'll be teleported into the Giant's Mole lair, where you can start your first kill. After your first kill, you can attune a portal in War's Retreat to send you directly here. For the last part of the guide, I'll be going through an entire kill at normal speed, using only Revolution, Melee, and talking you through the mechanics. If you plan on using either Mage or Range, I will leave an unlisted YouTube video linked in the description where you can watch the same thing. Looking at this kill, you can see that I brewed my stats down to as close as 60 as I could get. The only thing that is not exactly accurate is that my defense is up to level 75. For you, if you're at 60, this should still not be much of a problem, as the Giant Mole really does not pose much of a DPS threat. Moving into the minion phase, you can see that she calls her minions right away. I simply wait for all of them to stack up on top of me and manually use my Hurricane ability. This clears them all instantly, and I'm free to continue on with the phase. When she summons her second wave of minions, I notice that my Hurricane is still on cooldown, but should be ready in just a couple seconds, so I wait patiently for them to all to group on me, and by the time that they are all stacked, my Hurricane is off cooldown and I can use it once again. This ends the phase, and I rush off to find her again. Moving to the Rockfall phase, I know that she is probably going to stun me early, so I use the Anticipation ability to give myself 10 seconds of being immune to stuns. You can see that this pays off as she tries to stun me right at the beginning, and I manage to dodge the stun completely and complete the phase very quickly. With stun phase, I find it's best to keep your mouse hovering over your stun button. In this case I didn't, and I was a bit late to it. In any case, it shouldn't matter too much in the grand scheme of things, but it's just a good tip to know. Going into the digging phase, you can see for the first attack I tanked the entire thing. It only did about 800 damage to me, and I was easily able to continue the kill without even eating a single food. If you have lower than 99 HP though, you might want to consider eating here. For the second dig, my character walks out on their own after only taking 2 attacks, and I'm able to not do anything, and I still dodge the mechanic. This ends the phase, and sends the mole to the final chamber to finish the kill. The first ability the mole uses is to spawn minions. I patiently wait for the mole to group up, and I again activate my Hurricane ability. You can see at the same time the game tells me that the mole can now be stunned. I choose to ignore this and continue on with my DPS and focus on clearing the minions instead. Once they are dealt with, then I can go on and stun the boss, but until that point I should focus on the first mechanic. She then starts to dig, and you can see that my character leaves the AoE within the first tick, only taking 200 damage, allowing me to ignore the mechanic and finish the boss fight. And just like that, now you know how you can kill Giant Mole easily, you know how to break stuns, you know how to use AoEs, and you know how to dodge enemy AoEs. I hope you found this guide helpful, and if you can leave any constructive criticism in the comments below, I would love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching. Zingy out.